Hopefully after that presentation, you have a better understanding of the background of the culture found in Jordan. Although those facts are interesting, they're nothing compared to the experience of sitting down and having a conversation with a newly immigrated Jordanian family. Luckily for me, I have experienced that and would like to share with you a bit of knowledge I took away from it. I interviewed a Jordanian family who's lived in the United States for 8 months. Their first language is Arabic, with both the mother and father having a basic understanding of English. The family has 4 children who are all currently enrolled in U.S. schools. There are 2 male children. One is in the 1st grade and the other in 3rd grade, and 2 female children, one in 6th grade and one in 10th grade. The family moved from Amman, Jordan, which is the capital of Jordan, in December, and they first arrived in Michigan, where they visited family and stayed with them for a time before getting themselves acclimated to United States culture and lining up a job for the father. They're currently here in my town where I'm teaching the children, and I have the pleasure of knowing 2 of the youngest students. The father works at the local university here, and the mother stays home with the children. When I entered the home, it was like going to visit an old friend. It really wasn't what I expected, although I wasn't sure what to expect. I was greeted with a really warm welcome from the mother and the oldest daughter. They had arranged treats and a tea for me, and just really made me feel welcome and at home. It was interesting because I felt a sense of warmth from the family that I hadn't experienced within the school setting. And I think that just goes to show how this family, and specifically educated Jordanians, tend to take school and education very seriously. Of course, the other important thing to them is family. And that was very evident in my conversations with the family as well. Education in their country, when I was speaking with her about that, I learned a lot. She explained to me that when she was growing up, she knew that school was very important and that she had to study hard to continue to honor her family and to honor herself. She said in her own life that education was important to her, and she had always known that it was something that she needed to do for herself. She studied secondary education and had a 2-year degree, and a college degree in Jordan, and she did that before starting her family and with her children. And I found that really interesting. Of course, in my research, I read about how Jordanian females are definitely coming into their own in the culture. They've started to, come into the workforce. They're valued more than they used to historically, and it was very evident to me that her experiences showed that as well. She did explain to me too how their schools were very simple but nice. So I do think for a Jordanian family coming over here to the U.S. schools, I wouldn't consider our schools simple. And so I think that could be something that would be overwhelming for students coming into our schools with so many things on the walls, so much expected of them from day to day, not just education. We have a lot of extracurricular activities that we expect students to be involved in, and all of that could just seem very overwhelming for students who are basically there to go to school, be educated, and not be distracted by anything else. She did tell me that all of her children had been exposed to English in their schools. The 2 oldest, the daughters, had most of the experience with English because in Jordan, they're taught English progressively. So the younger students were just kind of starting to get introduced to it. which was evident too in me talking to them, and they had all been in the United States for the same amount of time. However, the two oldest, the daughters, were definitely able to speak better English. The family seemed very close. As we were talking, one thing that I noticed was, even through our conversations, the mother continually looked out on her children who were outside playing. One of them came inside and they just had, a loving look and nod back and forth between each other. And I just felt like she was very, almost mother henish, just very protective of them. When we spoke, we were always facing each other face to face. She sat very close to me, never really turned away from me at all, other than a few glances away to check on her children. And that went in part with what I read about Jordanian culture as well. It's very rude for you to turn your back on someone when you're speaking with them. If you're talking to someone and you're walking out of a room, it's most polite for you to walk out backwards and continue talking to them face to face, and then stopping when you continue into the next room. For Jordanians, the most important thing to them truly seems to be their family, their education, and their religion. Whenever I spoke with her about anything, her answers always came back to her God, her Allah, and trying to do the best to respect that and to respect her family. She told me that her children's success means everything to her and to her husband. So to me, as a teacher, knowing that, I feel that it's so important for us to just really have a great relationship with those parents, because they're invested in their children's successes, and it's just really important to include them on everything possible. So those are things for us to keep in mind as we educate our students, especially trying to get them to learn English. And, we just want to keep those things in mind. This was a really fulfilling experience for me, and I'm just really happy to have done it. I think that it has showed me that it would be really important for me to try to take the time and to have the opportunity to invite myself outside of the school grounds and into the homes of my students who are coming and immigrating over into the United States. I'm hoping that this information has been helpful to you as well, and that it can help with your future students.